Welcome to the Livermore Heritage Guild President's Report. My name is Harry Briley, and this closes out our fiscal year 2020 and the end of my two-year term as president. This year, due to the quarantine as a level 4 facility, we are hosting our annual guild meeting through a postal election, a special AGM newsletter edition mailing, which contains the slides for this presentation, and this particular YouTube video with my commentary on those slides. My personal contributions have been mostly in the information technology area, our website, our Facebook group site, and our new YouTube channel. Even those parts that I've most participated in were made possible by content contributors, technology experts, editors, and what we affectionately call nudges to help us complete our promised tasks. The Guild is clearly not a one-man show. There are so many moving parts and dozens of volunteers this past year. Fences needed mending, trees needed trimming, gardens groomed, and animals protected at the ranch. Computers needed maintenance and mailing labels produced at the History Center. The cottage at the garage needed its usual maintenance. And the newsletter was not lacking for material, despite the lack of public access since March. And our several highly active committees adapted and shifted to the internet for their regular meetings. Our board met using Zoom. The brand new Midway School committee is meeting that way. The Hegemon Ranch committee is meeting that way. The garage committee meets. All of these, dozens and dozens of people that make the Guild operate. My presentation tonight highlights only a tiny representative portion of all this activity. And I've taken a few sample photos from this year's newsletters to show you and remind you of the past 12 months that we've done quite a lot despite the virus. It has not stopped the behind the scenes work that keeps our various sites up and ready for the public when this quarantine is lifted. Once again, we are a level 4 facility, so we're the last to get reopened, but it doesn't mean that the people in the Guild are sitting on their laurels. We are quite active. I will then wrap up the presentation describing our financials in terms of our top expense items this past 12 months and our main sources of income. So let me begin. This President's Report was created back on August 15th in order to make the deadline for the special newsletter that we sent out to all of the membership. We have 4 museums. I will be talking about the Midway School project as our 5th, and an active committee is getting ready to try to make that become a reality. So the phase 4 quarantine did indeed chop half of our year as far as the public was concerned, and we remain shut down to the public until this quarantine is lifted. At the History Center, we still were open to the public from October through March. Display of the 150th anniversary of the railroad coming to Livermore. This is the Transcontinental Railroad. A lot of effort was put in by volunteers, docents, and data entry people to get our archives, our books and photos entered into our Past Perfect database. This included photographing objects in our HARP archive room and updating not only the information of objects that we had in our collection, but also putting thumbnail photos of those photographs, so photos of a photo, into the past perfect database. So when we would bring up an item, we could see at least a thumbnail, and then we would know that there was a high resolution photo sitting behind the scene. Looked at our books collection to say, is this germane to the Tri-Valley? Are these just books about California in general that you could get from any library, or are we providing value added just for the Tri-Valley? And that's been our direction. Our computer hardware and our computer software has been kept up to date. We are now on Windows 10, release number 2004. And our Past Perfect is the latest edition. Part of our computer hardware has been the improvement of our internet activity through a cell that picks up off the antenna from downtown. So we are getting better than DSL, but slower than Comcast cable. We did indeed, as promised last year, buy a brand new microfilm reader. The one we had before was woefully inadequate, but we are so pleased with our new microfilm reader. It's sharp, the images are sharp, they're crisp. Here, in fact, here is a picture of that. You notice it's quite compact. It's driven directly by the computer, on the computer, so there's not the old idea of a big old picture box sitting on top of it with mirrors and lights. It's a USB device, and it just plugs directly into our computers. I had to show this. This was part of my fun and games, is I get to play with the office equipment, not directly related to Tri-Valley, but we have it in our archives, and we said, well, okay, if we have it, they ought to work. And I wanted to show you what it looked like inside. It's just gears and levers, and oh, you hope you don't drop a screw somewhere. But this is one of the units that is available for the third graders when they come into the History Center. They've never seen an adding machine that's completely mechanical, and invariably, while their parents are off looking at some of the historical presentations in the History Center, the kids are down here punching on buttons. So it's been fun. And speaking of kids, we've had the Scouts and Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts work with the city to update the signs, which were really in bad shape. So the Carnegie Park signs for the city were improved. And then this sign right under here, Art Gallery and History Center, was barely visible. And they updated that for us. And that's on both sides, both the north and the south side of Carnegie Park. And we thank the Scouts for doing that for us. Our garage and the Lincoln Highway Museum receives the most amazing old stuff related to cars and repair shops. And one of those was a valve-facing machine, and it works. And this particular year, before the quarantine, there was a coast-to-coast Lincoln Highway caravan. There were two of them. One was the Military Vehicle Association, and they had a military convoy representing the coast-to-coast that Eisenhower made when he drove the brand new Lincoln Highway 100 years ago, often on gravel and dirt roads once you get into the western part of the United States. And then about 2 weeks later, there was a commemorative Lincoln Highway Association car tour, and where the military convoy simply drove down Portola Avenue, and we waved at them and waved flags at them. The car association stopped and used the garage as a lunch stop for them. The military convoy that drove by, and there was a wonderful article in the newsletter talking about this unusual structure. This was a a water tower, and you can't see it, but this would be the platform. And imagine, if you will, a round circular water tower sitting on top of it. And this would be the source of water for the home. As houses got onto the city water system, the tower was just clearly not safe. The barrel is removed, and they enclosed it and made it into living space. And several of the houses down on College Avenue did the same thing. So if you see this kind of structure in Livermore, you know that at one time it was a rural means of water supply. Inside the garage, we had the valve resurfacer. This is that unit. Here you can see a leather belt. And they were, I think they have an electric motor attached to it there, but there also is a belt driven up into the ceiling coming down. So it's just, I'm not a mechanic, so I walk in, I'm always in awe. It's like, how did all this work in those days? One non-vehicle item, which was clearly in the Livermore area, was this popcorn maker. It was in the theater that was the State Theater that was downtown. And this was the popcorn maker herself when she was in high school. And we received it all grimy and dirty, and we didn't know if it was if it was worth it. But the team, who normally work on fire trucks and cars, etc., said, let's have at it. And they cleaned it up, put new lights in it, polished it, so that shiny bucket, which was for the popcorn, was not shiny when they got started. They just did a wonderful job. And so then when it was ready to roll out to say we're done, we found a person who actually used that very popcorn maker, and it made it into our newsletter. So it's a fun article. Go back and read it. This particular photo, I had to laugh. I'm thinking, oh my word, you can't be serious. And I'm not sure if part of it is a joke on us, but the top part is a spark plug cleaner. So that part I get it, but it's sitting on top of an old treadle sewing machine unit, and I'm thinking, do we pedal this to make it work, or is it just was a place to put it on it? So this was a new donation. Another donation was the factory whistle from the Coast Fuse Works. This is the fuse works that used to be on Trevarno Road, and it's still a private road even today. And all those homes in there used to be where the management worked. And as you go further towards the railroad tracks, that's where they had the various buildings for producing fuses for dynamite. We received a donation of a Caterpillar 15. That's its name. It's Model 15, produced by Caterpillar. And that is currently sitting at the ranch. It's a loan, pardon me. It's a loan, not a donation. But it was a loan that allowed us to repair it and bring it up to operational standards. And the first part of that was to take apart the carburetor, put new parts in as possible, and then reassemble it. And so we're looking forward to having a working carburetor and a working Caterpillar for show to the public. For the garage, the sign, which was removed last year, was intended to go up this year. It's just not been possible with the quarantine. So inside the garage, the new sign that will be on the south side of the garage is being lovingly painted and striped. We hope to have that up probably November, December, sometime in there. At the Hegemon Ranch, we have new kids. And by the time we're open to the public, they should be grown to the point where they'll be interacting with the public. Currently, it's moms are very, very protective of their kids. We did indeed have 4 open houses until the quarantine. We have had a wonderful crew from the Presbyterian Church, the men's group. They'll come to us and say, can we do something else? Can we do something else? What's next to be worked on? And so in the past, they've worked on the chicken coop, which is operational and beautiful. So that's going to last a long time. And they worked on the wash house and the milk house, which were in danger of literally falling down. And they have worked it in such a way that they reused a lot of the original lumber, and to make it look as it might have looked back in the 1800s. So thank you, Presbyterian Men's Group, for having that carpentry skills and putting on new roofs with real shakes. Amazing. Bad news. We found that the 4-H horses had their manes and tails being chopped. Somehow, I guess it's a financial incentive. People just went in there and literally lopped off chunks of hair. Just terrible. We have put in a video security system that is motion sensitive to see if we can put a stop to this. The city does indeed, for the ranch, pays for the management and the upkeep. And it's a very expensive ranch, both in terms of insurance and in terms of trying to keep the roofs in place and wood from not rotting, and asbestos and mercury in the paint on the cottage. So all these are things that remediation activities that require boatloads of money. In addition to the 4-H group, we have Sunflower Hill, which has a 1-acre portion near Olivina Street that is a producing garden. They still have to pick the produce, and it is going to places that can actually use it. So they're not throwing away any of the produce. Here are some of the postcards. We send out postcards both through MailChimp and through our newsletter advertising our open houses. It is perhaps the #1 attraction of all of our facilities is the ranch, these open houses. And they've gone as far as 1,000 people on the property, 1,200, I think, 1,200, and then as small as 200 to 300. So when it's an open house, it's a busy place, and you walk out there and you really don't get the feeling that you're in a crowded situation. Behind the scenes at the ranch, I didn't know this, but we have some miner's lettuce growing wild up near the front driveway, and that was unplanned. And then planned is our heritage garden, and it's seasonal. So we have a summer crop and we have a winter crop, and the produce from here likewise doesn't go to waste. And we try experimental things with wheat and red wheat and barley and things that such as that, which we then go to feed the horses. So when you get into the backyard, wander over and take a look at the heritage garden. It is using seeds and plants that would have been of that era. If you go over the fence here, this would be where Sunflower Hill is, and they're growing modern vegetables and modern gardening. But this garden is maintained and weeded much as it might have done when the Hegemons were here. And here is the completed, rebuilt or refurbished wash house and milk house. If you were to walk in here, you might say, oh, wait, that looks like new wood, but Everything else, the Presbyterian men used as much as the old weathered wood as possible, but it was unsafe for the public to be engaged with these two buildings. They're cojoined right there. And now they're in a sturdy shape enough so the public can actually tour them and take a look at them. So here is our Caterpillar Model 15. The carburetor, as I said, is being rebuilt. This is a loaner, and the owner has requested that we don't paint it, that we don't make it look new, but that anything else, if we want to make all the gears work and the engine run, he's given us full permission for doing that. So we hope to actually be running this around for demonstration purposes. This particular tractor was used in the valley on East Avenue in the almond orchards and the vineyards, and it has provenance as being a Livermore tractor. In the independent newspaper in November, we had a wonderful spread. It is available on our website. You can click on it and read the entire article and the photographs that went with that article. Our History Mobile was completely sidelined. We run this during the spring and then for summer events. So spring is for the schools, and then the summer we're down at Ravenswood Park and various other places that can use the History Mobile. It did have a terrible cracked windshield, which was allowing water to seep in the rains. And so that windshield was replaced. Here is our newest facility. It is not open to the public, but our goal is to move it or portions of it and have it rebuilt next to the Hegemon Ranch on the corner of the upper corner of the Hegemon Park on Olivina Avenue. We decided that it was the only way to really get this schoolhouse down into Livermore was to disassemble it. We will give it a fresh skeleton, and when we get done with it, you would think that it was the school as it was back in the 1940s. Until we can get it rebuilt, our goal is to move it to the ranch barn for storage in pieces. Then we'll build a new foundation and walls on Hegemon Park. The city, of course, would like us to do that very quickly so it doesn't become a hazard to the public. Then we'll reassemble the exterior and the interior component. Besides our four main facilities, we realized that in order to build up a larger community of membership, we had to let people know that we existed. And so we were looking for ways to go beyond our walls. That has been passively with the website and Facebook group where people will come look for us. But then also actively, we promoted the movie Gimme Shelter with the speaker, Ronnie Schneider. The Livermore Public Library has worked jointly with us for quarterly Then and Now story, a series of lectures, and the rooms have been filled. So it's worked very well. We can't wait until we get over the quarantine so we can get back to these Then and Now stories. Another active outreach has been MailChimp for our events. If you are not on our email list, please let us know. If we don't have your email, we can't send you a postcard. Colorful way of outreach has been our newsletters. 12 pages. Back in the days, I was looking in the early 2000s, and we had 2 sheets of Xerox black and white paper. And we have come a long ways. A lot of credit goes to the Eberleys, Megan and Dottie, for being the editors and getting on us to get articles in here that would be of interest to you. So I've been very personally proud of the newsletters. Barbara Sulks gets information in about our open houses and the Independent. There was the city in their brand new council's chambers. They dedicated one of the multi-purpose rooms and named it after Mendenhall, who was the man who plated most of the town of Livermore, donated land for the railroad, and named the city after his best friend, Robert Livermore. I wanted to draw your attention specifically to this card. Richard Finn explored some of the houses in the South Side and went on a tour, walking tour. So not only did we have a talk at the library, but with the Livermore Area Parks and Recreation District, there was a senior citizens walking tour, which I think occurred twice, very well received, and lots of other people said, can we come, can we come? And so we expect this walking tour to be reactivated. The railroad depot, as you know, was moved over to the ACE bus terminal and the commuter train. But the building itself was refurbished in such care and detail. The rotting wood was replaced with like. And there were 5 awards in all of California for rehabilitation of historical structures. And we were one of the 5 that the governor presented to the team that worked on it. And we had a couple of representatives from the Livermore Heritage Guild up there as well. During the Mendenhall room dedication at the City Council chambers, Loretta Caskey assembled a display of photographs of old Livermore. And this was off to the side as you entered the room. And they had members of the Mendenhall family there present to honor William Mendenhall. And Richard Finn gave a talk on the history of the Mendenhall family. And the room was filled, and it was a lovely day. And when things like this happen, we are gladly, as a guild, gladly show up to work conjointly to, one, get the name out for the guild, but also to encourage people in Livermore to know what our history is. Money, 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 money. So as it was with last year, we have no employees. We still have no employees. And we have a Tesla preservation project that is on the books, and it's money restricted for Tesla. We don't use it for any other purposes. And the Tesla committee manages that project. We have an interest, of course, in preservation, and that's why the guild is involved. But the money that's involved with that isn't part of our regular guild activities. Our main expenses are, as you can see here in red, our insurance, $11,000 for the ranch liability insurance. When they heard that we are giving hay rides and we have public walking around on uneven surfaces, insurance companies go, ah, and they go, someone might trip or fall, and most people who come on site are aware that it's a ranch, and they take due care not to, go clambering on the fences or sticking their hands in the horses' mouths. But even so, in order to have that property open to the public requires liability insurance. We also have insurance on our Historymobile. And then we have insurance for the guild for all other aspects, all other events. So when we have volunteers working at the garage, or docents at the history center, or volunteers doing cleanup at the ranch, we have what we call general liability insurance. And then we have directors and officers insurance, as is necessary for any organization such as ours. As far as things purchased, the big items for us was getting that cracked windshield repaired on the History Mobile, purchasing the microfilm scanner. It became what is called an asset, so it is not treated as an expense. It will be depreciated over years. So it shows up in our books as an asset as opposed to an expense. The windshield didn't make it in last year's report, but it was in last year's money, last year's finances. I didn't get a chance to report about it. So this is a last year's item reported for this year. Coming up in the future, a big expense for the H barn. This is the big white barn that the horses are in. It is in bad need of repair. There's leakage, water leakage, of course, because it's old, and when it rains, it tends to rot the wood. We don't want the roof to collapse on us, and so that repair will occur probably around December or January of 2021. We're hoping we can get it done in December before the big rains. Other big expenses for us is storage. So since we don't have a building that we can call our own for storage, we have to rent places for the stuff that we have in our archives. We have a small space in the History Center. We have a small place at the ranch, but for stuff that needs to be protected and is bulky, we have a storage unit. And then for one specialty item, we have Robert Livermore's piano that came around the horn. Ancient old square piano, and it's costing us $1,200 a year to keep it boxed up and in a climate controlled area. Storage, big expense for us. Here's how those same expenses look on pie charts, so you get a feeling of size. Insurance, absolutely huge compared to all our other expenses. So we, as a guild, are very careful on what we're spending your money on. We're not being frivolous, and so we cross-check. Do we need this? Is it a needful item? But some things are outside of our control. Insurance is one of those, and as is storage insurance again. So these little areas, smaller pie slices of the biggest of these small slices is technology, the security camera system that was purchased, restrooms, maintenance, and just general utilities. Hegemon, not Hegemon. Every organization has administrative expenses, and we want to keep those expenses low so that we're not accused of, using the majority of our income for administrative stuff. And I think we're doing fairly well. Our administrative fees are 5%. Our other administrative, which I need to lump together in here, is about 7.5%. The biggest items here are the internet, computer supplies, and the History Center alarm, the association dues, and the newsletter. Everything else kind of just is in the noise. But when we add them together, our overhead is 12.3% without Hegemon. If we include Hegemon in the equation, our expenses are 7%. So well within reason. Our main income sources for items that are over $750, our main income sources are from the city for maintaining the ranch. That's a city stipend. It's money free and clear to the guild to use as we see fit. And indeed, we tend to use it for the ranch. We have some restricted donations that are specifically for the ranch. And then a small amount came in from our open houses. We don't see the open houses as primarily a revenue generating place as much as it is getting names of volunteers and getting people added to our mailing list. And then we have the boots out there for people to help defray our expenses. So when we see anything positive like this, is like, woohoo, you know, we didn't go into the black. So continue donating when you come out to our open houses. We need it. Our membership dues, just about $5,500, doesn't cover the expenses. So we've had people who very generous donate, and this year we had $9,000 in donations. We also received a rent on the cottage, which is a break even, and we had money that is sitting in CDs at the moment, money that we can't use. So we said, at least let's get interest on it. And so we have $7,000 in interest. And then until we close down this year, so this would be October through March, we had $2,000 in bookstore sales. But as I had mentioned in the earlier slide, our insurance costs are our big concern, and it clearly exceeds our membership dues. So the only way to really, you know, we feel badly if we have to raise the dues, the only way around this conundrum is to get more members. So we have about 220 or so members currently. Livermore has 80,000 people in it. So please encourage people to join the Livermore Heritage Guild and become dues-paying members. With the influx of new people, many new people who see the value of preserving our history in Livermore, we can help apply more of the dues to things besides insurance. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here are two of our hardworking volunteers, Barbara Sewells and Susan Junk. This photo was taken at the dedication for the railroad depot. All volunteers, thank you for your planning efforts, your volunteering, preparing things, cleaning things, doing the hours and hours of data entry, the mailings, the enabling the facilities to even operate for all our engineer types, the derusting, the cleaning up of all the mechanical parts, the curating, keeping track both in past perfect and actually caring for the objects themselves. The doceting, we still need many more docent volunteers for the History Center when we reopen. The driving, the serving, the hauling, the carrying. I can go on and on. This guild is a people organization. It requires lots and lots of people to do some little part. If everybody does a small part, then the guild as a whole can move forward. And no volunteers, we really don't have a guild. It's dedicated people like yourselves who are observing this or if you're a visitor who came in and saw this presentation, please, by all means, join and lend your shoulder to the wheel. There's got to be a place that we can put you to work. So take care. This is Harry Briley. I'm the president of the Livermore Heritage Guild, coming to the end of my term, and I will be handing the presidency off to whoever will be elected through the mail-in ballots.